Hello fashion lovers, welcome again to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be teaching you on how to draft and sew a balloon gown with floral design and ruffle neck. So if this is what you love to learn, let's get right into it. So first off, I'm using a crepe fabric of about 2 to 2.5 yards, and I'm going to be folding this into 4 as though you're cutting your flay. Okay, obviously I'm going to be using the flay pattern to cut out the balloon, to make out this balloon gown. Okay, so I've gone ahead now to mark out the length or the inches I want to use for this particular flay. So go ahead and do yours like that. So after folding, you notice that some parts are folded and some parts are open. Okay, the part that is folded, just the way my hands are, that's where you're going to be marking out your waist from. So what you do, your round waist, add like 4 inches extra, then divide that 4 inches by 3.14 to get your radius. So whatever radius you have, you're going to mark it out like the way you see me do. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead to verify if it fits well with my waist and we have extra. Okay, so next up, from that particular waistline that you've marked, you're going to be marking the length of the down part of this ball or bubble gown. Okay, so I marked that 13 inches and I'm going to mark it all the way around, just the way you see me do. So next up is adding ½ inch on my waistline. Now this ½ inch is going to help for your joining of the upper bodice. So go ahead and cut out your drafted pattern already. So this is my flay pattern. Okay, so note that for this balloon or bubble skirt, you can use the flay pattern to achieve it, and you can use a straight method to also achieve it. So go ahead and open a side of it, and that side is going to be serving as your center back, and where you're notching right now is going to be serving as your center front. Okay, so next is going to draft the bodice. You saw where I folded this into 4 and I gave a part, like a zipper allowance. So I did not fold it equally. I left about 1.5 inches. So next up is getting my starting point. Under my starting point, you see that there is a place that is folded there. I didn't start from the extra. I started from that part where it's folded to mark my shoulder measurement. Shoulder measurement divided by 2. I marked it down. Then I'm going to mark in my neck width. For this particular neck width, I'm using 2.5, and for the length, I'm using 1.5. Okay, I hope you got that. And I'm going to just blend in my curve to get my round neck. Now from that my shoulder line, I'm going to be coming down by 0.5 inches. That is ½ inch. And I'm going to be slanting it to meet up with the neck region. So from that my 0.5 inches I came down, I'm going to be marking my armhole line where my armhole is going to be sitting, and I marked down 4 inches. So next, I'm going to be ruling a straight line that forms where my armhole is going to be sitting. So next is I'm going to be marking my half length. That is my shoulder to my waist. The shoulder to waist for this particular project is 8.5. Remember that we're making a dress for a 1-year-old child. Okay, so for the shoulder to bust, I'm using 5.5 inches, and I'm just going to connect the line like that. So under my bust line, I'm going to be marking my bust measurement divided by 4. Remember that she's a baby, most of their measurements are always equal. Okay, so I went ahead now to mark out my seam allowance or my side seam allowance, and I'm going to be connecting it with my ruler. Hope you understand. Okay, so from that my armhole line, I'm going to be dividing it by 2 to get my midpoint. Now from that midpoint, I'm going to be coming out by 0.5 inch, and that is where my curve for my armhole is going to start from. Okay, so I'm just going to be joining the points together from the shoulder line to the midpoint and to the bust measurement. So next is I'm going to be going to that extra extended allowance, which is my zip allowance, and draw out my neck and the waist measurement. The lines. Okay, I'm cutting out. Go ahead and cut out. So if you've noticed, I've drafted for both the back and the front. So I did not draft, or I did not cut out separately. I cut together. Okay, so Now I'm going to be cutting out the back pattern. Of course, the neck we did, or we measured out, was for the back. Okay, so we have our back pattern and we have our front pattern. So I'm going to put the back pattern aside. From that my shoulder measurement, I'm going to be coming down by 3 inches. Remember that this dress is like an off-shoulder dress with a spaghetti hand. So if you're a person that does not want to use a spaghetti hand off-shoulder, you can leave your dress like this. Okay, then I've finished coming down and I'm going to just put a curve, right? And this is how my neck is looking like. That's the neckline. I'm going to put it together with the back pattern so I can be able to achieve the lines I want for the back, where the back should start from. All right, so you can determine yours. So, or you can also come down to what you want. So I'm going to come down by 2 inches and I'm just going to rule a straight line. So for instance, you don't want to use spaghetti hand or straps. Please don't do the second part I'm doing, that I'm trying to slant the back neckline. So because I thought I was going to do a straps, as I did this, as my back is having like an armhole, right? So go ahead now and notch your zipper allowance. It is very important. Okay, so I'm just going to fit in the different patterns that I've drafted and cut out, and it's very okay. So next up, we're going to be cutting out the floral design. So get yourself a piece of paper. I just chose to use this carton, right? Then I'm going to be tracing out the designs I want to use for this particular dress. Okay, so I'm just tracing it out, like a round shape. If you know you're not good with drawing, you can use any round object, okay, that is big enough. Then trace it on the paper and go ahead and cut out. So I was done tracing out and I like what I have here. So I'm going to place it directly on my pieces of fabric and I'm going to cut out. Now for every cut out, it has to be 2, right? So that it serves as lining and the other one as main fabric. So you cut as many. So I'm going ahead now to reduce the flower design. You know that this flower design is coming in 3 dimensions, like 3 different sizes. So I've cut out the second layer and the third layer. So I'm going to cut out the largest part with the first one I actually cut out. Okay, I hope you understood what I just said. Okay, now this is the smallest part of the flower design and this is the other part. There are 2. So the other part is basically the choking pink. We're going to be using choking pink for that side. So go ahead and cut as many as you want. So next up, I'm going to be measuring the length of this my balloon down part of this gown. Okay, and I have 13, so I'm going to be reducing it to 10, like reducing like 3 inches, right? And I'm also going to be marking out my waist measurement. So this waist measurement is divided by 2 because it's on fold. Like it's not, I'm not cutting this, I'm cutting it a straight lining, like as if I'm cutting something straight. Okay, so I'm done doing everything I want to do. I'm going to add extra because you know that from the main fabric I added extra, right, on my waist. So I'm going to add extra width to the wideness of this particular lining. As you can see, I've cut out the lining. And for the gathering process, I'm going to be using my needle to sew a loose stitch on the end of this flare part. Now, not on the waist, on the end, like the end part of this flare. So when I was done doing the loose stitch, I'm going to gather them nicely and neatly, with carefully gathering them together. Okay, so I've gathered them, and what you're going to be doing next is to place the straight lining you cut on the main fabric. But I really want to arrange it well so that it stays or lap very well, because I'm going to be pinning everything. So I'm placing my lining. As you can see, the lining is shorter than the main fabric, and that is what it's supposed to be. So I'm going to be pinning, but I'll also flip it over so it will be easy for me to pin. Okay, so I'm flipping it over. I'm going to pin, and when I'm done pinning, I'm going to sew on the part where I gathered. So I'm done sewing, and I'm going to drag. Now you're going to drag the lining to meet up with the waist. Okay, remember that we notched the midpoint for this particular skirt. So now going forward, we added 2 inches for the zipper allowance. Please don't forget, from that zipper allowance I'm going to mark or take the measurement and check what is remaining, like how many inches is remaining in the skirt. So I've discovered what I'm going to do is I'm going to be pleating it inside the upper part. So this is what the skirt looks like, or the down part of this dress looks like. It's already looking very beautiful and pretty. So I'm going to recut the midpoint. Okay, now this is the upper part of the dress, the back pattern and the front pattern. I've gone ahead to cut out my lining, and I'm just going to sew around where you see my hand is. So at this point you can go and iron your interfacing or your gum stain or your air stain on your fabric. Now next up, I'm going to be teaching you how to get your ruffles. Now it's just a straight thing. I measured out 22 inches for my length, so the length is now 44, right? Because it's on fold. And you're just going to do a slight curve at the end of this band that I'm cutting out. Slight curve, just a slight curve. And you can as well do something straight and it will still come out beautiful. Okay, so this is how it looks. The widest of this, I used 4.5, or you can use 5 inches, you can use 6, depending on how large you want it to have. I was done fixing my lining or sewing my lining, and I'm going to go ahead now and press on it. After pressing on it, you should be able to join it, sew it. So I'm sewing with my belt, but I didn't show the part where I cut out my belt, but belt is very easy to cut out. So while shaping this cloth, I shaped with my belt. It is easy to do your belt, so don't panic, okay? So this is the upper part of the dress, and I'm going to trim out the excess and mark out the midpoint. I'm trimming out the excess and I'm going to mark out the midpoint. You know how neat I want my job to look. Already this particular dress is already looking beautiful. So I need this my midpoint, and I'm going to notch it right away. Okay? Now this is the midpoint for the down part of this dress, and I'm going to bring it together to the midpoint of the upper part and pin. I'm pinning it just like this. Then don't bother about the excess, just take the ending part of this skirt pattern and pin it with the ending part of the upper part of this dress, then pleat the rest inside the dress so everything goes inside. Then stitch your ½ inch. This is what the dress looks like. Already the dress is already looking very pretty. So you're going to be opening it and sewing the zipper side. Okay, for this part of this particular video, I didn't show how I sewed the zipper or fixed the zipper, but it is very easy. You can check out my previous video about fixing zipper. You will get to know how to fix zipper from there. Next is my fixing of my ruffle. So I'm using 1 inch elastic. I'm just going to place it inside till I get to the end of this my band, and I'm going to go ahead and sew on that edge. So when I was done sewing, I'm going to go ahead to drag until I get the desired length I want. So this is my desired length, and I'm just going to take it to the sewing part and cover the excesses up. Okay, so that part where I sewed, I'm going to place it on the front of this dress. Okay, you remember that this particular dress is for straps, but I didn't use straps, and that's why the back is not straight. If I wanted to use straps, or if I didn't want to use strap, I would have made it straight at the back. Okay, so I can still decide on using straps and maybe fixing the straps alongside with the ruffle. So you can just play around it. All right, so I hope you saw the way I fixed the ruffles. It is not difficult. Just put on the front pattern of the dress and sew everything. So for the flower designs, you go ahead and sew round, then open and iron. So as you can see, I used the second part to cut out the biggest part of this flower as choking pink. It is very easy, just go through it. Then we're going to go to the machine to pleat the flower design after ironing. So I'm going to show you what it looks like when I was done ironing. So I'm done ironing right here, and I'm just going to go to my machine and pleat. So you can use your needle to pleat, but using my needle was a lot slower, so I used the machine to pleat. This is how it's going to come out, looking like this. Okay, this is the choking pick, the biggest part, and that's the medium, then that's the other smallest part. Okay, so going forward, we have to create a base for where the flower design is going to stay. So I had this round shaped, and I sewed round, then opened, left a little space, then fold it in and close it up with a stitch, right? I'm going to iron it so it looks round. So I'm going to place my flower design on it, just the way you see me do. That's how I place my flower design. Place it on it and go ahead and take it to your sewing machine and sew all the way. So as you're sewing, you're adding more flower design and you're following the flow of the base. Okay, so I'm going to show you what it looks like with the first base. Meanwhile, you can observe that I did not iron any stay on it, so you can go ahead and iron your stay on your flower design before you sew them. So this for the second part of the design. I'm putting the second layer of the flower design, and I'm just making sure it's okay, it's lapping well and staying in its right position. Okay, so go ahead and do yours just the way you see me and sew round again. Okay, so we're going to be going around to sew. I'm done sewing and this is what it looks like. So I'm going to put the last layer of the flower design on this flower design. Okay, so this is the last place. I'm going to place it on top as usual and go again and sew round. So I'm done sewing and this is what it looks like. So now to cover that stitches there, I have to make a flower. So you just bring out the 3 pairs of the flower design, fold them together neatly, and use your needle to tack it, like sew it round, tie, knot it so it to be firm. Then you can as well go ahead and tie around it so that the flower design can be very firm and they stick together. Okay, so just do it the same way you're seeing me do. But if you have another design you want to place in front of that, on top of that particular flower design, you can go ahead and do so. Okay, so I'm just improvising and I'm just being creative about the whole thing. So when I'm done, this is what it's going to look like. So I'm going to pin it directly down at that, cover that space, and I'm going to be tacking every bit of it inside the main design. So first I'll pass it through the 3 petals I make, or the 3 flower design I made. Then I'm going to be fixing it inside the main floral design like this. Okay, go ahead and just continue tacking and tacking until there is nothing remaining. So go ahead and tack until there's no sign of any unfinished parts remaining. Okay, and during this process of your tacking, it must be very firm. So, and there are still other parts that needs to use your whole gum, okay, or your gum. You can use your gum during this process. So I'm done, and this is what it looks like. Very pretty and neat. Okay, I'm going to go ahead now to place this floral design on the gown. Now this is the entire complete gown, and this is how I'm going to be placing it on top. So I'm not going to be tacking this particular floral design on this dress. I'm going to be going ahead to gum. I used my candle gum to gum around, but first of all I'm going to be tacking the placement on this dress so that I know where I want to tack, or where I want to place my gum. Okay, this is looking so pretty. Okay, just let me know if you're going to be trying this in the comment section, and if this tutorial has been helpful to you, please encourage me by liking, sharing, and dropping a comment in the comment section. Until our next video, it's bye.